Yeah. Hi everyone, very good morning. So today we are going to see how we are going to configure the ASM. So last class we discussed about what is ASM and what are its advantages and all. So to configure ASM, we need to follow several steps here, and for that I have taken a separate new VMware machine. So here if you look at this is the ASM machine that I have just installed, and that's my IP address over here. So in this we are going to perform several steps. So before proceeding, just want to give a high level steps what we are going to do. So first basically we are going to create a ASM instance. So if you look at or if you recollect the things what we have discussed earlier, so I told you that if you have ASM instance in place, then you will be having like one database instance and one ASM instance talking to each other, and then this ASM instance in turn will interact with the database. So till now only database instance is doing that. So now database instance along with ASM instance will do this. So to make this possible, or to create that ASM instance, we are going to create, or we are going to install a software called Grid software, Oracle Grid software. So usually this Oracle Grid software will be used in rack environments wherein you want to create a cluster database or Oracle RAC database. But since 11G, Oracle has changed this, and in 10G, ASM software used to be separate, and rack software used to be separate, and database software used to be separate. But starting from 11G, Oracle has integrated both the rack software and the ASM software into a single component, which we are going to call it as Grid software. And to install this Grid software, we are going to create one OS level user. Just like to install database software, generally we will create one user called Oracle at OS level. So similarly, to install this Grid software, we are going to create a user by the name Grid. Again, this is not mandatory. You can use any name of your wish. So we are going to do that, and so this is the first step that we are going to perform, that we will be creating a user by the name Grid. Then we perform some steps as a root user, and finally as Grid user we are going to install the Grid software. Then we are going to configure ASM. So we are going to add some new hard disks, and we are going to configure the ASM and the ASM disks as well, disk configuration as well. So once this disk configuration is also done, then as a third step we are going to install the database software as Oracle user, and then finally we are going to create a database with the help of that ASM disks whatever we have created. So high level, these are the four steps that we are going to do. So first let us proceed with step 1, that is creating the users. So first step is exactly the same thing what we are doing in regular Oracle installation. So we are going to add oinstall group, then DBA group, and we are going to create a user by making those groups as primary and secondary. So let me connect to the server using putty. So done. So to verify, you can just say ID Oracle to see if that user is there or not, or user created successfully or not. Then in support with ASM, we need to create multiple groups. So we have some groups like OPER, Grid, ASM, DBA and all. So let us go ahead and create those groups. So you can just copy paste all the commands so that all the groups will be created. Next, you are going to create the grid user. So this is what I told you. We are going to create this user, and with the help of this user, we are going to we are going to install the software. So once it is created, just to make sure, so you can run ID grid to make sure that that particular user has been created properly. Then we need to change the password of users. So first I'm changing the password of Oracle user, then changing the password of grid user. So done with that. Then in etc host file, we need to add a line with respect to this server. So the IP address and then followed by the server name. So my server name is ASM server. So here you can see that info. And once we are done, we need to save this. Then we need to set some firewall permission. So we need to say SA Linux is equals to permissive, and already here one more line is there, SA Linux. So we need to comment that out and then save this file. So this command is to give the permissions for the firewall. So this command is for to stop the firewall. So these three commands would be basically in lower versions of Linux, like Linux 6 and all. So in latest versions, we use this command systemctl stop firewall and disable firewall. Then we are going to create some directories. So we are going to create some directory by the name U01 app Oracle product, and we are making Oracle OInstall as the owner for that, and also we are providing 775 permissions to that particular point. So then comes the very important step that we need to shut down the Linux machine and add some virtual disk to that Linux machine. So let me issue the shutdown command. So done. Now you need to add the things here. So to add the disk, you need to click on this edit virtual machine settings. Then you will get a window like this, and there you need to click on here add button. Then which one you want to add, it will ask you. There are several components. So we want to add hard disk. So select the first one. Then it is Kezi, and choose this as independent disk, and keep this as persistent only. And whether you want to create a new virtual disk or use the existing one or use a physical disk. So we are going with the first one, virtual hard disk. And size is up to you. You can decide whatever the size you want. So we can just keep that as 20 GB. That's enough. Then if you want to give some name to it, you can just give a name over there. So whatever be the name, that would be fine. So just say finish. So the same step again. SCSI recommended independent virtual disk, store as single file, then this. So like this, how many disks you want to create? You can create those many. Your wish to have that. So just assume that all these disks are part of a SAN storage.
Pawan, this is Sachin here.
Yes, Sachin.
So Pawan, this, for ASM is again on a different. This is you are creating a new server, right?
Yeah, right.
So ASM will always exist on a different server other than the Oracle, right? Oracle database.
No, no, no. It is in the same server only.
Oh, so
I have taken new
okay.
server instead of our regular server, like what till now we used. Apart from that, I am using now altogether a new server. On that, I have created. I have installed the fresh Linux.
So you mean to say whenever before installing database, this is the first step we'll do.
Exactly,
ASM.
exactly. So
Okay.
that is what here the steps we followed. First, get
Okay. Yeah.
software, then configure ASM, then database software, then database create.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So totally I have added 6 disks here. So 6 new hard disks. So just assume that these 6 hard disks are part of a SAN storage. So once we have that, then you can power on this virtual machine. So here you can see that whatever the users we have created, Grid and Oracle are also being shown up. So now let's go and so the next step would be changing the contents of Oracle user bash profile. So now we have two users. One is Grid user and other one is Oracle user. So as I said, with Grid user, we are going to install the Grid software, and with Oracle user, we are going to install database software. So we have some ready things for bash profile. Generally, we open bash profile and we enter the details of Oracle home, Oracle SID and all. So because this is a little bit different one, so already the bash profile contents were there here. So we need to just follow these steps in order to go ahead with the new bash profile contents. So first we need to SU to Oracle. Then whatever the existing bash profile contents are there, you are going to take a backup of that. Then you are going to trim the contents of bash profile, means erase the contents of bash profile. Then you open the bash profile and enter the details. So because we have erased the contents, you can see bash profile is empty here. So now we are going to put down this entire content there. So it contains so many details, basically locations and all we are going to set predeterminedly. So that is what we are going to do here. And then save this once we are done. Then similarly, we are going to update the bash profile for Grid user as well. So come back to root user, then switch to Grid user. So here also, first we are taking the backup. Then we are going to erase the contents. Then we are going to edit the bash profile. So once you are copied, then just save this file. Now you need to create some directories. So earlier, before shutdown, we have created one directory for that is for database software thing, and this is for the Grid software. So again, I am coming back as root user and performing all these steps. So basically, I am creating the directories and I am making uh, that particular things. Just give me a moment. Small changes. 12. Okay. So I mean instead of 12.20, I'm just putting it as 12.10. The reason is in bash profile we are using this 12.10 location. So again, if I am changing it here, again I need to change in bash profile. But either way, either you are installing 12c release 1 or release 2, so the steps would be same. There is no difference. Then we are going to set some limitations. Then we are going to put some content in the log file. So these are all the prerequisite settings that we do. Now comes the actual step for configuring the ASM. So to configure ASM, first of all, we need to have or we need to install something called ASM library. So we are going to check with this command whether ASM library is already existing or not. So let us go and see. So it is not there. So if it is there, it will return you an output. So if it is not showing anything, it means it is not there. So first we need to download the software, Oracle ASM library, and then we need to copy that to the server. Just give me a moment. Okay, so let us go ahead and download this one. So if you want to download this software, you can just say Oracle ASM library RPM download. So you will get the things. So you need to choose your version, like it is for Red Hat Linux 5 or okay. So I can say Oracle Linux 7. Yeah, this is the link. So Red Hat Linux software is different and Oracle Linux is different. So Solaris is different. So all are different. So we need to choose carefully. Okay, so this is the file that we are looking for. You can just click on that so that it will be downloaded. So let me copy that to my regular location. Okay, so this is the file. So let me go ahead and copy this file to the server. So for that I am using WinSCP. So you need to copy this file as a root user only. And I am copying it in U03. So just selecting the binary option. Done. It's very small file in fact. So it's done. So once we are done with that, then we need to execute this command in order to install that ASM library. So I'm just going to the location where we have that file. So here you can see it is showing that it is installing and 100% it is completed. Now we are going to execute again the command in order to check the ASM library file. So earlier you can see it has not given any output, but because now we have installed it, it has given the output that ASM library file is already there. But when it comes to latest versions, so we also need to install something else with respect to this ASM library. If it is Oracle 6 or below versions, then only installing this ASM library would have been sufficient. But in latest versions, starting at least from 7, we require these extra steps to be done. So basically, in database software installation, we'll be running the m commands in order to install the packages. So here also we are going to do the same. Some extra packages would be required in order to configure ASM. So it's just asking for confirmation. I'm just saying yes everywhere. So when it comes to real time, there are two options. Either Linux admins will take care of this all these steps, whatever we are doing, or they might give root access temporarily so that you can perform all these steps. So done. Now we need to run one more command. So this is also done. So now comes the actual steps. So we are going to convert whatever the disks that we have uh, added to the VMware machine. We are going to convert them as ASM disk. So before going further, we are going to configure the ASM library driver with the help of this command. So here it will ask you some details. So already those details were provided here. So you need to just copy the same values and you can paste it there. So that's it. So here basically we are going to tell that grid will be the owner for the ASM and group name is ASM admin, and whether you want to start the Oracle ASM library driver on booting. Means suppose if I restart this server, whether ASM library driver should start automatically or not. So we are saying yes, and whether it should scan for the ASM disk during startup or not. For that also we are saying yes. So if we don't, put these two lines as S, then every time you need to manually start the ASM library driver and manually ASM disk need to be scanned. So obviously that is a extra burden for us. Then we are loading the things and we are checking what are all the disks that are available here. So here if you see, so many hard disks are being shown, and the first one is for the regular mount points, so which is of 85 or 86 GB. And if you remember, we have added 6 disks here, so these 6 are the ones which we have added. So this command fdisk-l command is basically to check whether it is recognizing all the added disks or not. Then you are going to create the partitions, in the sense we are going to convert them into ASM disk. So starting with first this one. So if you just run the command fdisk, so then you need to give the disk location. So the location you can identify it here. So it will be in serial SDA, then SDB, SDC. So only the last letters will change, A, B, C, D, F, G. So it will continue like that. Then the instructions are here. So first here you need to say N, means you want to create it as a new partition. And then P means you want to create it as a primary hard disk instead of an extension to the already existing hard disk. Then the partition number, which is by default 1. So I'm not putting any value, just hitting the enter button. Then enter, then again enter. Then we need to say W. So W means save the changes. So same thing you need to follow for other disks as well. Next SDC, new partition, primary partition, 1, enter, enter, W. Then SDD, new partition, primary, 1, enter, enter, W. So you need to repeat this for all the disks. New primary. So have done till EF. Okay. That's it. So for all the 6 disks I have completed this. So how many you enter, how many disks you added, you need to repeat that for all the things. So then comes this rebooting the server. It is not mandatory, so you can just ignore that and proceed. Then just to list what are all the disks that we have partitioned. So it will show you that these are the things that we have created. So these are all the disks that we have created. Then we are going to create these disks as the ASM disk. Okay, so here is the command to create the disk. So we need to say Oracle ASM create disk, and you need to give some name to that. and then you need to provide the disk name. Now when it comes to disk name, it would be a different one. So whatever we have used earlier, this one is disk location, and this one would be the disk name. Only difference is at the end you will see 1. So here it is SDB, here it is SDB1, here it is SDC, here it is SDC1. So like that you will see the difference. That's the only difference that we have. So it need to give you this message that it is done. At a moment, suppose you got this error stating that the initial instantiating is failed, then you need to run these two commands. But if you follow the prior steps for properly, you won't face this issue. So you can just leave that as it is. Then SDC1. So this is how I have created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 are done. Then to list the disks what we have created, we are going to use this. So here basically if you look at CRS volume 1 is the disk which I would be using in order to install the grid software. So once the grid software is installed, it will create some files and some services, so for which I'm going to use this particular disk. And then the next 3 disks I'm going to create a disk group for it, and I'm going to store my data files and all in this particular disk group. And then next 2 disk groups I will create as FRA, and I will store redo log files, control files, archive log files in this particular location. So that's the main idea here. So if you keep on adding n number of disks, then you can keep on increasing the things as well. So this command is just to check whether ASM is able to discover all the disks or not. So whatever the disk that you have created, it should show you all those details here. Then changing the ownership of U02 mount point to grid and O install. Then copy the grid software to server as grid user. So which means I need to open a WinSCP session as grid user, and I need to copy the grid software. So let me just do that. So I'm just going to copy that. So this is the grid software. Now where we can download this? So it is in the same location as your database. So where you will be downloading the database software, in the same place you will be downloading here. Just a moment. I think the website look was changed. Okay, so here if you look at, suppose I want it for Linux 64-bit, so I need to just click on see all, and just below your database software you will be finding the grid software for download. So this is your database software and this is your grid software. So of course this is 12c release 2, so that's why you will have only one file, but whereas what we are using is 12c release 1, so we'll be having two files here. So let me copy both the files. So let me copy to U02 itself. So copy copy is done. So let us go ahead and unzip those files. So I switch it to grid user, then I cd to U02. Now with respect to the versions, always it is mentioned that you need to have the latest grid software, and accordingly you need to have the database software. For example, If I am installing 12c release 1 grid software, I cannot have 12c release 2 database created under that. So maybe while creation and all, it may not give you errors sometimes. It might be successful, but later on when you are trying to configure something or use the database, then you might face some issues because of the compatibility. So that's the reason. Suppose if your database is your grid software is 12c release 1, then ideally your database software should be 12c release 1 or 11g. So, or if your grid software is latest 12c release 2, then you can go with either 12c release 2 or release 1 or 11g database. So the grid software version and the database software version is generally expected to be same, or grid should be higher. So now that unzip is done, now I am going to invoke Xmanager in order to install the grid software. So I'm just going to U02. Then, so once you unzip, you will get a directory by the name grid, and under that we have our run installer file. So we need to just invoke that run installer file. So there are several things here. You can see install and configure grid for cluster, grid for standalone, then upgrade grid, and then install only grid software. So what we are doing, it is for standalone server. So you need to choose the second option. Then English. Then comes the disk group names. So whatever the disks that we have created, so you can see all those 6 disks are being shown here. So now we are going to, as I said, grid software will install in a location for which it requires some files to be created in ASM. So which disk you want to use out of all these 6, you will be choosing it here. So I am going to use the first one, that is CRS volume 1, and here the disk group name also I am giving it as CRS. Then, as I said, in ASM, the data will be striped across all the disks in the unit. So here, because we are using virtual machine, so by default it will take only 1 MB, but whereas if you go to real time, it will go to 4 MB by default. So I'm just leaving that 1 MB as it is. Now here you can see one more thing called redundancy just below the disk group name. So that is about mirroring concept. So there are 3 values here you can see. In interviews they might ask you a question about it. So they will ask you how many redundancy types are there in ASM. Then you need to say these 3: external, normal, and high. Now what is the difference here? External redundancy means you don't want any mirror copy. So external redundancy means no mirroring. You don't want a mirror copy. Then normal redundancy means one mirror copy. So when I say one mirror copy, it is the same concept. Suppose this is one sand box and you have disks here. In mirroring, I told you the same data will get replicated to another sandbox. So this we are going to call it as normal redundancy. Then we have high redundancy, which means two mirror copies. Means you will be having totally three SAN storages, and main SAN storage will be this one, and whatever the data that gets inputted here, it will be replicated to the second SAN storage, and again it will not stop there because you said two mirror copies. It will again get replicated to the third SAN storage. So it is like you are going to have two copies of redo log files or two extra copies of control files, something like that. So just remember, this is very important interview question. External means no mirroring, normal redundancy means one mirror copy, and high redundancy means two mirror copies. So if I have created an extra disk, then I could have used normal redundancy or high redundancy. But for now, I am going with external redundancy, which means I don't want any mirroring. And even I told you in real time also, 85% of the projects you will find no mirroring concept because they need to invest again on purchasing the another SAN storage. Then comes the password. So there will be two users created, sys and asm snmp. So for both of them, what should be the password? You are going to declare it here. So for both of the accounts, I am keeping the same password, and of course my password is not matching with the recommendations, but still I am proceeding here. So by default it will take the groups, so we don't require to change anything here, and it will take the location as well because we have already defined this in batch profile. So it may give you this warning, it's okay, you can proceed. Just a moment. Just a moment. And I'm just executing those directory things once again. So let us see. Okay, so now it's fine. Oracle integration. So here it might show you that there are so many kernel parameters that are not set properly, and you know it is showing a warning. So here you have the option of fix and check again. So the moment you you click on that, it will ask you to execute this script as a root user. So I'm just executing it. Then come back and click on OK. So all these are successful, and but still some parameters are there which you can ignore. So just click on this ignore all button and proceed further. It will give you a warning stating that you are ignoring some prerequisites, but that's fine. So just like in database software, so here also it is asking you to execute two scripts as a root user. So it has done. Now we need to say OK. Okay, so the grid software installation is successful. So now we are done with that. So before proceeding with the next step, so we need to configure the disk groups. So before we go ahead with the database software installation. So to do that, we are going to use a utility called ASM configuration assistant. So just like we have database configuration assistant DBCA, so we have ASMCA through which we are going to create the disk groups. So in the same uh, Xmanager session, I'm just invoking ASMCA. So this is the screen of ASMCA. Let me minimize. So already we have used CRS disk group with external redundancy, and that is what here it is showing. So if you want to create the new disk groups, then you need to click on this create button. Then it will show you what are all the disks that are available here. So you need to first specify the disk group name. So let's say I will say data01, then external redundancy, since I don't want any mirror copy. Then I will check. So now as I already told you, disk group means a collection of disk. Either minimum one disk can be there or n number of disks can be there. So I am creating one disk group by the name data01 with two disks in place. Means that disk group will have two disks. So I'm just selecting those two disks here and just clicking on OK. Then it will go ahead and create the disk group. So it is saying disk group created successfully. Then here it will show you those details. And because the disk group, the disks are already added to the disk group, now you can see it is not showing those first two disks. It is only showing the remaining three disks. Now I will create one more data disk group by the name data02, and in this disk group I will add only one disk. So data01 is having two disks and data02 is having only one disk. So you can go with any way. Like if you want, you can add all the three disks to data01 only. Whatever be the way that you want, you can go ahead with that. And for FRA also, I'm using only one disk. Again, it's up to us whether we want to use two or one. And for archeolog files, I will create a separate disk group. So I'm giving the name as ARCH, and to that I am adding this particular disk. So all are done. Now I don't have any more disks to create a disk group here. So all are done. So once it is done, you can exit. So that's it. Then you are going to change the permissions for U02 in order to start your database installation. So now copy the database software to server as Oracle user. Now again I need to open a new WinSCP session. And I need to copy Oracle software. As I told you, I cannot use the 12c release 2.1. Why? Because my grid software is only 12c release 1. So I'm just copying release 1 software here. So copy is done. Now we need to unzip those files. So I'm going to switch to Oracle user and unzipping. So first file is done. Now I'm proceeding with the second file. So both the files are unzipped. Now we need to take an Xmanager session as Oracle user. And we need to invoke the run installer. So DB software installation is regular, so it's not something different. So I'm just proceeding a bit fast. Okay, so it is asking me to execute root.sh. Done. Okay, so our DB installation is also successful. Now we need to create a database, but while creating the database, we are going to use the ASM disks what we have created, or disk groups. So I'm just invoking DBCA. So create database, advanced mode, general purpose, database name. I'm giving prod.db. So if you want, you can create a it as a CDB PDB database as well. Then the passwords. So here comes the difference. The rest of the screens are same, but here every time we are using file system, but this time we have ASM in place. So here we need to select the first option, that is ASM, and then we need to specify the location where we want to have the ASM files. So we can select the disk group over here. Now if you see, it is not showing up any disk groups here. Now what could be the reason? The reason could be one thing, that Oracle user is not added in the ASM DBA disk group. So I have already mentioned that here. If ASM disk groups are not visible, then check below. So what you need to check? So here if you look at, Oracle user is part of only oinstall and DBA groups. So we need to modify that, because Oracle user should be part of ASM DBA as well. Then only you will be able to see that disk groups. And now you can see Oracle user is part of ASM DBA as well. Now you can see you are able to see the disk groups. So I want all my data files to be stored in data 01. So I choose that location. Then recovery options, where you want to have your fast recovery area. I want to have fast recovery area in FRA, and I want to enable archaeolog mode. I can enable here itself, or I can enable later also. And I want my archive destination to be ARCH. So whenever one more thing, important point is, whenever you are referring to the disk group name, always you need to append this plus symbol here there. So that's very much important. Then so use the Unicode one. That's it. So we are creating the database. Okay, so it said that it cannot support memory target. Okay, so the database has been created. Now I told you here if you look at there is a SP file location mentioned. So even your SP file is also now located in ASM disk group. Whereas this is in from 12C onwards. Sorry, this is from 11G onwards. So in 12C we have password file also in ASM. So here you can see the data files are located in data01 disk group, and your archive log destination is to plus archive, and automatically multiplexing will happen, and one multiplexer copy of redo log file is there in data01, and the second multiplexer copy is there in FRA. So even control file is also in two locations. So now whenever you want to create a new table space, so simply you need to mention the disk group name, and whenever you are referring to the disk group name, that plus symbol is mandatory, and you don't require to specify the data file name. Why? Because ASM by default will follow Oracle managed files OMF concept, so wherein it will give in its own file name.
Pawan,
Yeah, please.
see, you created a table space with data file size is 500 megabytes, correct?
Right,
Yeah. So sometimes there is a restriction. You cannot create more than like 20 GB or 50 GB.
right.
Uh, so how to find out what's the max size we can create?
By default it is 32 GB. So if you are using a regular disk group or file system, it is 32 GB in Linux.
32 GB.
Yeah,
Is there a place where we can see that? What's the? Oh, you can't set it. You mean to say maximum it will be 32,
yeah.
and you can't set up or down.
No, we cannot define any value. We cannot say
Okay.
that we want only 20 GB as max. We cannot do that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, and here you can see always we are using data01, so we can make use of data02 as well. So this data file will now go to data02 disk group. So here you can see that. So any moment of time, if you want to add one more disk to this disk groups, or you want to remove the disk from these disk groups, so there are some simple commands available. So something like alter disk group name, add disk, then you need to provide the disk name. So, and if you want to add an again, in order to add the disk, first of all you need to add that at VMware machine level, like what we did initially. You need to shut down the VMware machine, then you need to add the disks, and then you need to again configure them, create as partition, configure them, then finally you can make choose that disks there. So that's how we are going to configure the ASM things. So we are left out with one big topic, that is Oracle Manager Server, OMS server, and which also includes Oracle Enterprise Manager also. So both together we would require a long duration, because the installation itself will take very long time. So we might require to spend some 3 to 4 hours of time for that. So ideally I prefer to go with weekend, because most of the people will be free. And unfortunately, this weekend I got a work, so I will not be able to take up that. So maybe the next weekend, like I believe that falls under December 2nd and 3rd. Yeah, so it falls under December 2nd and 3rd. So that time it is possible for me, to go ahead and take the class. But meanwhile, I'll do one thing. I'll just share the video, which I have it for the last batch, so that you can have a look at the video, what exactly we are doing and all. And maybe by the time, if you have some questions also ready, we can see that installation part and configuration, and we will discuss on that questions also. So with that topic, we will be concluding our course. So any queries, any from anyone?
Okay, so what is the next class timing, Pawan?
Yeah, I will tell you. Mostly, like, we'll
Okay,
maintain the same time, 6 a.m. But let's see if I can take it on December 2nd or December 3rd.
okay.
Okay, so thank you, guys. Let's meet again in the next class. So I'll share the video, and even I'll share the video for today, because I know it's one of the important topic. So I will ask the admin team to share today's video as well. And you will get this document as well, so they will upload to that hands-on document folder, so you can just download it from there. So thank you, and
Okay.
have a nice day. Let's meet again.